All right, welcome. Today we are taking a trip inside the machines that pretty much run our lives. You know, from work to play, computers are just everywhere. But have you ever stopped and wondered what's really going on inside that case? Well, let's pop it open and find out together.
So you look at these two, and on the surface, they seem totally different, right? You've got the big, powerful desktop that lives in one spot, and then you have the sleek, go-anywhere laptop. But underneath it all, they actually share the exact same core, the same heart. So what secrets are they hiding inside? Let's take a look.
Okay, for this first part, we are going right under the hood. We're going to crack open that case, so to speak, and really get a look at the core components. You can think of them as the essential organs that make these incredible machines tick.
To really get what a computer is, you gotta understand its anatomy. So we're gonna explore the brain, the nervous system, its memory, and all those other vital parts that have to work together perfectly to bring it to life.
We're going to start right at the very center of it all, the command center of the entire operation. This is the computer's brain and its central nervous system. These are the parts that do all the thinking and coordinate everything else. So first up is the Central Processing Unit, or as you probably know it, the CPU. If a computer has a brain, this is it. It's this tiny little chip that does all the heavy lifting. I mean, every single click, every key you press, every calculation, it all gets processed right here. It is without a doubt the most important part that decides your computer's speed and power.
You know, we hear the term gigahertz all the time when we talk about processor speed, but what does that actually mean? Well, 1 hertz is 1 calculation per second. So a pretty standard 3.48 gigahertz processor is doing almost 3.5 billion calculations every single second. That number is just absolutely mind-blowing.
So who actually makes these powerful little brains? Well, the market really has 3 titans. You've got Intel, who you've probably heard of, known for their Core series chips that have great performance and work with just about everything. Then you've got their main rival, AMD, with their Ryzen chips, which are famous for amazing multi-core performance, especially if you're into gaming. And more recently, Apple has jumped into the ring with its own M-series chips, which deliver unbelievable performance while barely sipping power.
Okay, so if the CPU is the brain, then the main board, or what a lot of people call the motherboard, is the central nervous system. It's this huge circuit board that literally everything plugs into. It's the communication highway that lets the brain, the CPU, talk to every other part of the computer's body. Without it, you really just have a box full of parts that can't talk to each other. And this is super important. The brain and the nervous system have to be a perfect match. The socket on that main board is designed for a very specific type of CPU. You can't just mix and match them. Seriously, think of it like a key and a lock. They are made for each other, and only the right key will fit.
Next, we've got RAM, which stands for Random Access Memory. The easiest way to think about this is as the computer's short-term memory, or maybe like its workspace or desk. The CPU uses RAM to hold all the data for whatever you're doing right now, so it can get to that information in a flash. But, and this is the catch, it's volatile. That means the second you turn the power off, poof, the entire workspace gets wiped clean.
So we've met the brain, the nervous system, and the short-term memory. But now, to really understand the rest of the parts, let's look at them from a more practical angle. Like, how does all this stuff matter when you're trying to pick out the perfect computer for you?
I know the whole process can feel a bit overwhelming, but honestly, you can break it down into 4 key steps. First, just figure out your budget and what you're actually going to use the computer for. Second, pick the form factor. Do you want a big desktop or a light laptop? Third, that's when you pick your core specs like the CPU and RAM based on what you need. And finally, just double check for the important stuff like ports, the operating system, and the warranty.
Now, one of the biggest choices you'll face has to do with graphics power. Basically, the component that acts as the computer's eyes. For just everyday stuff, browsing the web, streaming videos, the onboard graphics that are built right into the CPU are totally fine. But if you're a serious gamer or a designer or a video editor, you are going to need a machine with a separate, dedicated graphics card to handle all that heavy lifting.
Your next big decision is all about long-term memory, your storage. And here you have 2 main options. There's the traditional hard disk drive, the HDD. It's kind of like a tiny record player with spinning disks inside. It's slower, but you get a ton of storage for a really low price. The modern choice, though, is the solid-state drive, or SSD. No moving parts, which means it's blazing fast and way more durable, but it does usually cost a bit more.
Of course, none of those main components can work by themselves. They need a whole team of support systems. You've got the power supply, which is like the heart, pumping energy to every single part.
You've got the cooling system, which acts as the lungs, making sure nothing overheats. And then you've got the case itself, which is the skeleton, providing the structure and protecting all the delicate stuff inside.
Okay, so we've put our computer together, but our journey isn't quite over. Because just like any high-performance machine, a computer needs some regular care to stay in peak condition. So for our final section, let's look at how to maintain both its physical body and its digital soul.
I mean, what good is a body without a soul, right? Well, software is the soul of the machine. It's the set of instructions that tells all that physical hardware what to do. And it's really split into two big categories. You have system software, which runs the computer itself, and application software, which are all the programs and apps we actually use.
The most important piece of system software, hands down, is the operating system, or OS. You know it as Windows, Mac OS, maybe Linux. The OS is the master manager. It's the boss. It coordinates everything, all the hardware, all the software, and it creates that user interface that lets you and your machine actually communicate.
Taking care of the computer's body is actually pretty easy. Just keep it somewhere cool and clean, and blow the dust out of the fans every now and then so it can breathe. Protect it from power surges. Try not to spill your coffee on it. And hey, give it a rest by shutting it down when you're done for the day.
And taking care of the computer's soul is just as important. Keep your operating system updated. That's huge for security and performance. Run a good antivirus program to protect it. Tidy up your files once in a while so you can find things. And please, most importantly, back up your data. Trust me, you will thank yourself later.
And that's our tour. We've seen that a computer isn't just one thing. It's this complex, amazing ecosystem of specialized parts all working together in perfect harmony. And as these parts get faster and smaller and more powerful literally every year, it leaves us with one last really exciting question to think about. What will your next computer even look like?